And now let's crack on with our next stories. This one is from the Daily Mail. And Sajila, when will this madness end?
When?
Talk about hormones and kids, right?
When? This just keeps going on. Gift that keeps giving. So, children aged 14 who question their gender should be given irreversible cross-sex hormones, and girls as young as 15 should be allowed breast removal surgery, says a global trans organisation. Wow. OK, so the age of sexual consent in this country is 16. The age of legally being able to drink alcohol is 18. And we were recently covering a story where they're thinking of bringing the age of smoking to 21. However, somehow it's OK to lower the age to 14, they're also saying in this, to anyone who's thinking of becoming a trans. This is by the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. Health, I say that loosely because, are they really worried about health? So WPATH, for short, and it's based in the United States, of course it is, and saying that girls as young as 15 should be allowed to undergo breast removal. Now, this is a reversible, surgery. So all this treatment is reversible. What they haven't taken into account is that at that age, you can be confused about sexuality. So it may not nothing to be in trans. It may be just that you are gay, you're lesbian, you're just confusing your body. And should we not let our children grow a little bit? And actually,
I mean, it could be a phase, couldn't it?
Yeah, sorry?
It could be a phase.
It could be a phase.
I had a really short gay phase, 1997 to, 2015. It went like in the eye of the storm. But this is the issue, is that young kids are going to get misdiagnosed because maybe they're a little camp. And that could just be that their nature, they're effete, but they're not necessarily in the wrong body.
No, absolutely. Now, there is something, I remember studying at university, and it's a thing called Imagine Community by Benedict Anderson, and he did it in 1983 in a book called Imagine Communities to Analyse Nationalism. So what it is where a group of individuals who've never met each other, never come across each other, but they all self-identify under a shared community identity. And I think that is what's happening with this whole kind of, all kids wanting to be trans, everyone wants to be trans.
So
it's in the media all the time. Yeah, it's in the media, it's everywhere. And it's what happened with the Islamic extremists, people who saw, and the book burning of Salman Rushdie. I remember, doing a whole report on this, and it was actually only 4 or 5. The photo was cropped, but then everybody saw it globally and thought, well, that's what we've got to do. It's this kind of mob mentality almost, and it's really hypnotic. And because we've got social media, of course, it's a lot easier to do this. So anyway, there's a guy called David Bell who basically wrote a whistleblowing report into the NHS Gender Identity Development Service, and he basically said there's no evidence whatsoever to support these claims made by WPATH. Do not lower age and do not let your children convince you to have these operations or this treatment until they're old enough to know what they're doing.
Well, and 18 would be the natural threshold, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like
Do you feel differently? You're younger.
No, I share your views on this.
Well, you're in full disclosure, Jonathan's on medication to become a man, so I think that's...
Yes, I've not been able to grow.
It's only fair to point that out.
I don't know.
It's not going well, is it?
My mum just puts a medication in my cereal every morning. I just take what I'm given. But yeah, so, OK, just to play devil's advocate here, this is not necessarily what I think, but there are going to be some people who transition and they're absolutely better off for it. They may live happy lives and, they now feel like their body represents who they are on the inside. That being said, if there are people who are going to benefit from it, there are also people who regret it, and it's a permanent change. So like you say, it's a very risky thing to put people through life-altering surgery and non-reversible hormones, and I can see it being very.
There is an exception to the rule that I think with an intersex, which is basically you're born with you're born with male, maybe say if you're born a girl, but you've got male organ reproductive,
and that's like a biological freak, isn't it?
And that's like a third. We call it in India, Pakistan, third sex, right? So then that is obviously understandable because you feel like you're in the wrong body.
Of course.
But you also have...
But that's microscopically rare, isn't it?
That's very, very rare.
Yeah. I think it's really important. I always enjoy hearing your thoughts on that, Sajila. I know that that topic's not going to go away. Let's move on now to Saturday's Telegraph. And staying on the topic, women's sport is under real threat from this looming trans agenda. Jonathan, tell me more.
Yeah, here we are again. So the SNP, trans reforms, will deny female athletes medals Olympians won. So Scottish female athletes will lose out on medals because of Nicola Sturgeon's transgender reforms, former Olympians have warned. So a couple of former Olympic athletes, Sharon Davis and Mara Yamauchi, the ex-runner, on Thursday told... so basically they've given their concerns about the impact that allowing people to change their sex legally by signing a declaration, that the effect that's going to have on sporting fairness. So these pair of athletes warned that women's sport was already at risk of being ruined by male-bodied athletes competing in female categories, and said that a state-backed endorsement for the concept of self-identification would only make matters worse. So there's a real concern here from these athletes that by biological men being able to self-ID as women, they're then just going to completely clean up and get all the medals, and they don't think it's going to be fair. And not only that, there are a lot of people are afraid of speaking out against it because they're worried about being labelled transphobe, or they may lose endorsements and stuff like that. So it kind of seems like these female athletes are in quite a tough position because, you know, you may want to be inclusive, but at the same time, they're going to be losing opportunities to biological males. So yeah.
I was just thinking, like, so at school sports day, and you had to do the mums races, which I normally came last in. I should have identified as a 5-year-old and done the 5-year-old races, but
I'd
still come last.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there is no end to this. They've recently published the shortlist of best women's fiction. Can't remember if it's Virago, but there's an award for women's fiction. Could male writers who identify as female now enter that particular competition?
Oh, well, they've been identifying as women writers for years, haven't they? Or the men have been identifying as women writers for years. So that was but that was a Sudian thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. It is. I don't know where this. Where will it all end? We don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll be pushing back against most of it, I guess, Sajila.
I have to say, I probably will. But then on the other side, I do think we've got to be careful that this doesn't lead to real transphobia. Do you know what I mean? I really don't.
Well, I think attacks on trans people are up 80% in Scotland.
And I think it's down to this.
I think it is down to this overreach of the overplaying of the hand by the extreme trans ideologues. The Ideal Lodge is
the Lodge is a lovely place to just say.
The Ideal Lodge is a 2-star hotel in Birmingham. They always look after me there. Vibrating bed and room service.